Welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that is committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles as introduced by Sydney Banks to people throughout the world. And today we have an extra special webinar for you all. This is the 40th anniversary of the Hawaii Counseling and Education Center with Christine Heath and many friends and colleagues. And Chris will tell you about the center, but basically, it is the longest standing mental health and substance abuse program based on the three principles in the world, 40 years. Here we go.
Aloha, everyone. So nice to have you come and help celebrate with us. Um, you know, one of the reasons we wanted to do this webinar was just to hopefully inspire somebody else to do this. So we're hoping that you'll get a feeling for this and maybe some courage and some insight about where to move to bring this out into the world more. So that's one of the reasons. And we like to party a lot. So it's a good way to come together for all of us and share some old stories and tell you a little bit about what's happened over here, because we're kind of, far away from everyone, and we sometimes it's really living in a different country. When I first moved here, it was like, oh, wait a minute, this is a totally different country here I'm living in. And it's a really different, magical, special place. And we are so grateful for the experience we've had and the ability to serve the Hawaiian people. And so we just thought we'd share a little bit and take you chronologically through what we do. The agency itself is almost all virtual now. We have four offices, but we do the predominant amount of work online, which is really something we learned how to do before the pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, we hit the ground running. But we've evolved a lot from the early days, and this understanding has evolved a lot. And we're hoping to share some nice stories and just share the feeling that we've all gotten as being part of this, because there's something about coming together as a group that to me is a special kind of experience, as opposed to just being an individual person kind of plugging along out there. There's a strength, I think, as we come together. So that's why we wanted to do the clinic, because I learned that when I was in Minnesota with our first guest, which is Joe Bailey. And Joe and I were adversaries, if you will. We didn't like each other much. And
I didn't know that.
And so it was odd because one day he had gone down to Florida and to hear Sydney Banks talk. And he had met this woman down there that he was gaga goo goo over. And she was in the process of moving up to Minneapolis, or had just moved up there. And so we happened to go in the building. We had the office in the same building, and we happened to go in at the same time. And he goes, "You want to go to lunch?" I was like, "Yeah." So he went to lunch, and he's blah, blah, blah about this woman that he met. And I was looking for a husband. So I had big ears for that. I was very interested in what he was talking about, not Sydney Banks, but I was interested in the fact that he'd met this woman there, right? And so he decided to bring up Roger Mills to Minneapolis to share this first time that he shared this understanding. And he put out a brochure. The brochure was the most complicated brochure I ever read in my life. I have no idea what it said, what they were doing. And I made it my duty to go down and tell him. My roommate was in therapy with him, and my roommate kept coming back from therapy going, I'd say, "Have you dealt with this yet?" He goes, "No, but I feel better." And it really irritated me that he was not doing good therapy the way that I thought he should do it. And but my roommate was not dissuaded by me at all. He was like, he knew that he was onto something. And so I made it my duty to go down and tell Joe, what the hell are you doing here? And what's going on? And he got really frustrated with me. If you want to know what it is, go to the conference. So I left and I thought, well, maybe psychology classes programs are a better way to meet men than bars. I don't know why I thought that, but uh, it and so yeah, so I signed up and I signed up for both days, which the second day was optional. Thinking that if I met somebody the first day, I didn't want it to look obvious if I wasn't signed up for the second day and then have to sign up suddenly. So, and he said at the time, he said I was the first person that signed up for both days. So I go to the conference and I'm the person in the audience you don't want to have there. I'm the one asking all the terrible argumentative questions. Well, what about this? And what about that? And anyway, we broke for lunch and Roger made it a point to seek me out because I was the disruptive person. Right now, I know what he's doing. He's calming me down, right? So I'm not such a pain in the butt in the next section. And but he had the nicest feeling of anybody I ever talked to in my life. It was kind of like melted butter. And it was just like he was stroking my soul, like you'd stroke velvet. And I thought, yeah, dinner would be great. I still don't have any clue what he's talking about. And anyway, long story short, I got blasted, and then Joe and I went to Joe's house, and I remember saying, "Hey, I don't need to be in therapy. There's nothing wrong with me." And Roger's like, he doesn't know who I am. He's like, well, I don't know if you need to do that or not. And but that was kind of the end of that world for me. And Joe and I embarked on a journey to start to learn these principles for ourselves. Joe, you want to jump in?
Sure. Hi, Chris. It's good to hear that story again. It was such a magical time. Unbelievable. I had a similar motivation, I would say, as Christine, because I was looking for Mrs. Wright. And Keith Blevins, Dr. Keith Blevins and his wife Valda had been trying to get me to listen to Sid tapes and come to Sid conferences for years. And I would immediately throw the Sid Banks tape in the wastebasket. Oh, here's another trip from California. So I was extremely skeptical. But one day he called, and she's very wise. She says, by the way, Joe, Sid's going to be speaking in Miami, and our dear friend, my best friend, Michael, she's going to be there too. And we think you two would really hit it off. And something lit up in me. It was the divine consciousness way of tricking me into hearing Sid Banks. And I just felt pulled by this force against all my skepticism and cynicism about Sid Banks. Because I had listened to a lot of his tapes, but I just thought, oh, this is another California trip like so many others. Here we go again. And I'm really focused on family systems theory and blah, blah, blah. Had a good practice going. And so, but anyway, so I went to Florida. And before I met Sid, Valden said, well, Joe, why don't you come to the airport? We're going to go pick up Michael. And so I did. And when I saw her, it literally was love at first sight. So I'm falling in love all day. We're just in heaven. It was massaging me before the final main course. So that evening, Ricky Suarez and his sister hosted a group of people, Roger Mills being one of them, and uh, so I was staying there, and they said, well, "Why don't you come to the airport? Well, we'll go pick up Michael." And I fell in love with her, and it was head over heels. It was just amazing. But that night, this was a sideline for me at that point. I thought this was the main course. I'll listen to Sid Banks. So he came over for dinner, and after dinner, all of a sudden everybody got really quiet, and I'm jabbering away about what role in the family are you? And I was, being the therapist, interviewing people in the way I did. And all of a sudden I realized I'm the only one in the room talking, and everybody else is looking at me. So I kind of embarrassingly sunk into my seat. And Sid started talking, and everything he said would take was like buildings collapsing of my ivory tower of therapeutic approaches and Gestalt therapy and family systems and Virginia Satir that I'd worked with and all these different people, and all of a sudden he was just dismantling everything. So part of me was intrigued, but most of me wanted to run out of the room as fast as I could because it was threatening to my ego, to my identity, to everything I thought I'd worked so hard to hone. But I hung in there mostly because of Michael. Um, and something, it's all of a sudden Sid turned to me and he just started talking to me. And I don't know what happened, but the walls came down. And I knew that he had the truth, that he had the true psychology. And even though it took a while to kind of get through that, I heard something so deeply that I knew I could never turn back. So Michael moved to Minnesota shortly after that. Uh, I came back to Minnesota and tried to do the therapy the way I normally did, and I couldn't anymore. It would just like, wait a minute, cancel what I just said. Here's what here's what I know now. I barely know, but I just in the clumsy way I talked about it, people would look at me and say, "My God, Joe, why didn't you tell us that before? That's so simple and it's so true." So my clients actually taught me the truth of the principles. Because even with the little knowledge and insight that I had, they would change. So I started changing, and I'm in love. And Chris sees me in the hallway. God, what's going on with you? And she, as she just told, she eventually went to the conference with Roger Mills. So the two of us, we are a lot of our caseloads, mine and hers included, were therapists. People who were therapists would come to us. So they started changing. And so inevitably, we just saw that we have to leave Park Place Clinic and move on and form our own institute, which we did, the Minneapolis Institute of Mental Health.
Yeah,
And
it was like a wave, wasn't it, that went out into the world.
yeah,
This wave, and people in that were our clients would go and talk to their friends that were in therapy with other therapists, and they're like, what are you doing? You're getting better, and then they'd go to their therapist and say, oh, what kind of therapy are they getting? And then the therapist got really kind of insecure about that. uh,
yeah, they were
yeah.
threatened. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we would have, like I had a lot of groups, and my office was right off the waiting room. And so the groups would come out with peals of laughter and, this great feeling. And it really bothered the other clients because they wanted to know what kind of therapy that was. And of course, the therapist thought it was goofy, right? They thought it was kind of terrible that people were laughing. And the clients all thought it was great. So it was interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were sitting in the waiting room and they go, "Well, what is your therapist doing? Why do you look so much better and we look more miserable?" And so they would switch therapists. They would start coming to see us. So it was very controversial.
Yeah.
But we, Chris had worked for the state of Minnesota and she knew how to set up licensed clinics. So we were a great team. And we spent a lot of time on the phone talking till 11, 12 at night. What are we going to do about this? And what are we going to do about that? And we went through lots of insecurities, but it was very exciting. Um, and it was like you said, Chris, it's like riding a wave. We didn't really have to do anything. We were just being carried into that world.
Yeah.
And we saw over 5,000 clients at the Minneapolis Institute of Mental Health over the years.
Yeah.
And but Chris got the inspiration. Sid wanted to see something start in Hawaii, and she was ready to take that on. And
Yeah. Oh, remember it was I was too hard on this social work intern we had. And you took me aside and said, Chris, you're too harsh, you're too hard on people. You need to lighten up. And I went home and cried for 3 days and then
I
called Sid
remember that.
and said, I shouldn't be the director of this clinic. I shouldn't be doing it. There's a mistake that's being made. And he goes, now, dearie, he said, there's no mistake here. You should be the, he said, now, if you can see something about yourself that you should change it and then forget it. He said, and I think you're bored. I think you should go to Hawaii and set up a clinic there. And it was like, oh, what a great idea. Now you got to understand, Minnesotans, their idea of vacation is northern Minnesota. Like they don't like travel, moving to Hawaii was like a very controversial thing. My whole family thought I'd be here 6 months and I'd be back. And it was not something that people were like, well, do you have a job there? No. Well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. Probably set up another clinic. I don't know. And they said, well, do you know anybody there? No. And yet, again, that feeling was so strong that it took me about a year to get there. We had to do a lot of things. But so Joe came as my security blanket. And so Joe and Sue Sickora and Karen Miller and Thea West were the original people that incorporated in April of 1985. So we were going to celebrate in April, but my husband's been sick, so this is the first time we could do it. But it was we had to all get different jobs, right? And Joe and I'd be on the phone long distance. Like get to understand, this is 1985. You did not make long distance calls very often,
It's very
but
expensive.
yeah, we were insecure, very insecure, didn't know what we were doing, but we just kind of hit the ground running and got jobs. We all got jobs in different places. But as we did this, we were known as the Sunshine Girls. And my husband, who was an employee assistance person for the union, was surfing one day with another employee assistance guy. And the guy said to him, he said, like, you hear about this new group in Kailua? And he goes, what do you mean? A new counseling group there? And my husband said, oh, yeah, I know about him. And of course, I was dating him at the time. And actually, I was probably living with him now I think about it. But
Probably, yeah.
yeah. And he said to me, he said, well, are they on drugs or what? He said they're so happy all the time. They just like every time you see them there. And he says, are they, what's the deal? And my husband goes, he says, no, they're like that all the time. That's just the way they are. He goes, really? He goes, yeah. So that we were out just trying to be ourselves in the community and live this. And we sent out a brochure that went to we just sent it out as an informational thing about the philosophy of our agency. And one woman from the Kailua Counseling Center read it and she got touched by it. And she called us up and she said, would you want to apply for a prevention grant? I was like, yeah, prevention. I can do prevention. And so we got our first grant, which was $14,000. And it wasn't enough to pay for anybody really, but help pay the rent is about what it did. And then we started to work on that. And so Susie, you want to jump in now? Because as Joe, we decided it was too much bother with Joe. So then Joe stepped out and Susie, you're next on board here.
All right. First of all, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You just are our hero of life and the world. And I also want to thank Debbie Waterman. Debbie's with the agency, she's writes our letters, she would do everything. Debbie has been our right-hand man. Thank you, Debbie. Congratulations, you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. I guess we all have our little way. I guess I started back in Hawaii, in Florida, and with the Institute. And as an intern, I remember Roger Mills gave me my first client. Well, mind you, I'm a nurse, so I'd never had any experience in counseling, and I thought they would teach me. And Roger goes, "Oh, no, here's your client. You go see her. She's 17 years old, and her mother's going to bring her in, and you go talk with her." So she turned out Cindy. She was very shy, didn't like to go out much. She was extremely overweight, and I didn't know counseling, so I didn't know what to do. So I talked to her about school and clothes and shopping and all kinds of stuff like that, mashed potatoes and gravy, what we were doing. And this went on every week, and I felt really guilty because I thought I'm really not doing anything with this kid. Roger's going to find out and fire me and get rid of me. And about a couple of months later, Roger calls me and he goes, "Susie, I want to talk to you about Cindy." And I'm thinking, oh, here it is. I'm really done now. And he goes, "Her mother called me." I'm thinking, oh, now I'm really done. And he goes, "She wanted to thank you that her daughter has changed so much, that all of a sudden she's coming out of the house, she's happy, and she's losing weight." And I was shocked because I have no idea. So then it proceeded that I got a job with in research at the VA hospital. And that's really where we started having some classes in the surgical intensive care unit. And I've always felt like I hope that I listen to life. You sort of get these feelings that you just know. And we started having conferences in Hawaii. We'd have the annual conferences in Hawaii. And the second to the last time we were there, I thought as a joke, oh, it would be really funny if I got my Hawaii nursing license. Wouldn't that be a kick just to have a Hawaii nurse's license? So I did. And then pretty soon, a couple months later, I woke up and for a week, I had this constant feeling that I needed to quit my job. I didn't know why, but it was so strong. So I had the best job. I had my own office. I was making great money. So I went in and told my boss that I'm going to leave. I'm giving her my notice. And they're like, "Are you crazy? Do you want more money? Like, what's happening?" And I said, "I don't know. No, I don't have a job. I don't have anything. I just know I'm supposed to do this." And 3 weeks later, Christine calls and says, "Do you want to go to Hawaii and open up a clinic?" And I went, there it is. That was the answer. I knew it was a reason.
Mm.
And we were really blessed. You know, we were living in the North Shore and we'd have to drive into Kailua, and we started to have to look for an office. So we're driving in Kailua all over the place, and we're going down Kalaheo Avenue, and we're crossing the bridge, and we look over. There's this beautiful building that's just opening up right on the, what is that?
Canal. Canal. The
Canal,
canal.
right, overlooking the ocean. And they were just opening up. So we went in there, we met with the guy, and he loved us because we were funny and we were cute. And we found the C214. It was the most beautiful office we ever had. And we had that office forever and ever and ever. And we went in that building. Are you still in there, Chris?
Mhm.
40 years. That place, we went from room to room. When we enlarged, we get more rooms, but we always kept coming back to that.
Wow.
And then Chris realized that she had two nurses. What was she going to do with two nurses? She needs counselors. And so, really, we learned everything we learned from Christine and Sid. I mean, we didn't know anything about counseling, but learning the principles and being with Sid was all we needed to know.
Mm.
That's all we needed to know. Because no matter what happens in life, who you work with, what you do, it all comes back to that. I can remember the first day. Chris was always funny. She'd say to me, Susie, you're going to go teach a class at Colorado High School next week. I go, Chris, I don't know how to teach. She goes, yes, you do. Just go. So I'd go, and sure enough, whatever. Then she'd go, Susie, we got a job at the detention, the boys' correctional facility. You're going to go. I thought, oh my God, I could never do that. And I remember walking up to the doors. My knees are shaking. I can't imagine what's going to happen to me when I go in there. And they open up the door and they close the clunk behind me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. And they take me to this little room. And in comes this first little kid, boy. And I'm sitting there and I'm shaking, and I look at him and he starts talking, and I thought, oh my God, he's no different than me. He just got in trouble. He's just a nice, healthy human being who just got wayward, off the track a little bit. So it was like always those experiences. I always felt like it was a leap of faith. And we did everything that we had to do. Chris was the visionary person. Chris always saw where to go and what to do. And we were her little bees, her little worker bees. And I mean that lovingly. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'd go walk on water if she told me.
You actually did one, Susie, and you
I-
almost drowned.
so it's like
Um,
we didn't we had nothing. I mean, really, we had no. Finally, one day I said to Karen, do you think Chris is going to give us a paycheck? We've been here. And she goes, I don't know. I wonder too. We haven't gotten any money. So we finally said, Chris, are we going to get a paycheck? And she goes, oh, no.
Didn't read your contract.
Wait, really? So that's when we thought, well, we better get jobs. So I got a job, which was perfect at a psychiatric adolescent hospital because I had no idea about psychology, psychiatry. So it was the perfect place for me to be because I learned about the medicine. I saw what they were doing to kids. I saw that they put kids in a room with a batonka and made them fight and push them and get their anger out. And at that point, I loved that because I could go around. They had little individual rooms, and I could just go in and sit on their bed and talk with them. And it made all the difference in the world. But I don't want to say we weren't scared. We just did what came up in front of us. We
Yeah.
just I would go, like I said, she'd go do here, go there. And I go, oh, well, okay. And that's all I would say is, okay. And I go do it and not think about it and you get through it. And then I think about everyone that's right now here. It was a leap of faith to come to HCEC. Joe, Chris, you all had to give up something. So you either stayed or you left. But you all, word of mouth. I mean, I searched out for Debbie, but usually the people came to us. And Debbie did. But you all came because you either heard something or wanted something new or liked what you heard about the agency. And Kristen was very pure with people. This is what we do. We don't teach experiments. We don't teach rituals. We are the three principles. So if you want to learn that, you want to be here, then you're very welcome. And it was hard because back in the day in Hawaii, first of all, we were three white women that came over, which is a big no-no. Because at that point, people would come over, start businesses, and then they'd leave in a couple of years. So the Hawaiian people didn't really respect that or like that. Secondly, we were women. And thirdly, we were told if you make it through the first year, you're lucky. Make it through the second year, maybe you'll be in. And if you make it to the third year, you're in. And that was exactly how it was. Exactly. And I can remember Chris was the first one to get a client into the agency. Our first client. Oh my God, we were in the doorways and every way waiting for this person to come in. And I remember it so clearly, Chris, that was this young, beautiful couple, and they came in for counseling, and I think they had like 7 or 8 kids or something like that. And they were so young and pretty. And it was, she did miracles with that couple because that's how word of mouth started spreading of the work of this woman and the agency. So it's like that feeling that people wanted, that we love living with. You know, I feel like we're so privileged and honored to have learned and had time to spend with Sid. Sid was so loving to us. We were his little kids, you know, and he would do anything for us, and he loved the agency. He loved the agency. It was like his baby. And so he would, of course, come to Hawaii and would do the conferences that we'd have for him. And that, again, brought in people to hear the truth, to hear the principles. Everybody walked away with something different and love. And to me, it was always personally, I always was looking to be happy when I came to Florida. I just didn't understand why some people seemed to be happy, but I wasn't all the time. So I decided it was because they had a money or a boyfriend or they were rich. And I didn't have any of them. So that's probably why I wasn't happy. And it was through back then, there were no books. And finally, we were introduced to Sid and his tapes. And I remember listening to a tape every night and I'd fall asleep with it. And one night I just woke up and I went, oh my God, I am happy. I do have happiness and it's right within me. I missed it all along, but I have it now. So working at HCEC, no matter what, if we were sent to the detention home or the prisons or foster care parenting that we did, individual counseling, the substance abuse program, how beautiful. And my one story about a prisoner, I loved working in the men's prison. I mean, it was my favorite job in life. And I'd always start out with blonde jokes because I thought that would break the ice, you know. And one day I'm telling a blonde joke and I literally did forget the ending. And the guy in the group goes, that's the best blonde joke we ever heard.
By a blonde.
I am
By
blonde.
a blonde.
And it was my last class with the guys, and the one guy says, may I say something? And I said, yeah, I want people to talk. And he goes, I want you to know that I would give them second chance to read. That's what we would read. And we'd watch a Sid video after each class. And he goes, well, I had my book, Second Chance. He goes, and I was decided that I was going to steal it and not give it back because I really liked it a lot. He goes, but then I realized what I learned, that I didn't want to hold back some other man in here who couldn't have the privilege to read this book. I was so touched. I said, I'm giving you your own copy. But I mean, it was things like the simple little things that touched people's hearts and lives.
And thank you, Susie, for all the years of and toil and sweat and management. Susie did all the budgeting and it took care of all the administrative stuff with personnel and took care of all that for us. Without her, we wouldn't be existing at all. She's been a tremendous part of HCEC throughout the years. We're so grateful to everything that you did for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you guys.
Love you too. Thank you.
I guess
Who
I'm
came
up.
next? Yeah, Sharon.
So I was the first full-time employee. I did get a paycheck, but I have to say, and I don't know if Chris and Susie know this, but um, so I prior to meeting Chris and Sue, the Sunshine Girl, I I was 1 year out of grad school, and I had taken this job doing residential adolescent boys group home treatment. And after that year, it was probably their worst year ever because they had like 9 house managers that just circulated. It's like the boys just chewed them up and spit them out. So I was burnt toast at the end of that year. And I was actually looking at changing fields after 1 year. I had cut out um this little ad to buy a manju bakery.
What?
I was gonna buy a bakery, and Sherilyn, who's not here, I hope she comes on. She knows my story. But she's like, Sharon, you can't do a bakery. You're not an early bird person. I said, no, I'm gonna stay up all night and do it. And then I'm gonna go to sleep after. But I was gonna take this little ad to the bank and see if I could get a loan because I was just burnt toast. I was done. And the last referral I had to this program, I got it from a guy at the state hospital. And I guess I was complaining to him, and he told me, oh, you got to talk to the health in the kid. I'm like, what? What do you mean, talk to the health? Oh, go to this agency, they teach it. And so they happen to have the perfect class called Working with Adolescents. And so I signed up for that class, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, at 4 to 6 weeks, I think. And Karen Miller was teaching it, and I didn't get what she was saying, other than you can that we had this mentally healthy state of mind. And I thought, well, that's nice. That's a good idea. That'll work with like the rich neurotic people, but it's not going to work with the hardcore adolescent boys that I'm working with, the tough street kids. Um, And then after the session, Chris said to me, they had some extra money, so she could do some couple individuals with me. I'm like, oh, great, free. I can go. And it was after that second meeting I had with Chris. Um, and again, Chris, this is probably the first time you're hearing it, but I was so irritated. I was so irritated because during that meeting, what I remember is she kept poking at all my beliefs. She'd ask me like, "What would you do if the doctor told you had a terminal illness?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to listen to the doctor, right?" And she said, "Well, what if it's not true? What if they don't know that there's a cure?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can get a second opinion." And then she says, well, um, she said, do you worry about money? I'm like, well, doesn't everybody worry about money? I had just bought a house, and she said, well, why don't you sell your house? Then you'd have money. Thinking, well, that's why I bought the house. So I could have money. I could save money. And then she asked me, do you believe everything you learned in school? And I said, well, yeah, because they did their research, right? And she says, well, books are just people's thoughts on paper. So I'm going crazy. I'm thinking, what the hell is she talking about? And I left that thinking that, what is she trying to tell me? Like, I can't believe anything I learned. Like, what am I supposed to believe if I can't trust the experts? Like, who am I? In that moment, my whole entire identity was sucked out of me. And I was just this empty vessel. And it's floating up here, and it was kind of freaky for a moment because it's like, who am I? What am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to believe? You know, how are you supposed to do life like that, right? And then it came to me that, oh, that's why we have wisdom. That's why we have wisdom and common sense, because that is there to guide us in how we use this amazing gift of thought. And so all these beliefs, I started to see them for the first time. I was just living them before. I started to see them and I thought, I don't need insecure thinking. Toss that one. What about all the superstitions from my parents? I don't need that. I can toss that one. And oh my God, it was just one after another. All these insights and things just kept coming. And then I thought, oh my God, I could have been anything I wanted to be. I could have been that movie star. How do you become a movie star? You think like a movie star. You follow the thought pattern of a movie star. You go to Hollywood, get an agent, take acting classes, do auditions, work as a waitress. Could have been a movie star. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'm being brainwashed. Am I being brainwashed? It's like, no, there's nobody up here except me. Nobody can put these thoughts in my head. There's no one else here. And I tell people if I could have done a cartwheel, I would have done a cartwheel, but I would have looked really silly because I can't do it. But it was so life-changing in that moment. And does it mean I was free of all my thinking? Of course not. You're gonna have thoughts. But to learn more and more about the principles and that we are built to be successful. And I'm just so grateful for all the opportunities that I had with HCEC. So thank you, Chris and Susie and all everybody that contributed to it. I got to do, my being in Hawaii, everybody tells you should work for the government because they're very secure. You get your retirement, you get health benefits. My uncle would always call me every like 3 to 5 years and say, "You ready to go to work at the state?" I'm like, no, I don't want to work at the state. I loved having all the different opportunities. So yes, I got to go teach in the prison and I got to do biopsychosocial after school programs. I got to do day treatment programs and so many things and and even do a little bit of public speaking, which that freaked me out. But I still enjoyed it. I still found ways to enjoy that. Um,
Oh, Sharon,
and there,
we're so grateful for all the aloha that you poured into HCEC. Sharon, we got a big contract like overnight, and we went from what 18 staff people to 68 staff people in 2 months. It was really the Wild West show because we hired anybody. We'd say, okay, this is what we're doing. You want to learn this and teach this? Yeah. And some people didn't really catch on, and other people did. It was a very interesting time. But Sharon was the leader of that, developing all the program. We were just making up these programs and
oh yeah.
how to do a school intervention program, how to do all of this. It was funny. And Sharon then pulled in Cheryl Lynn.
And I just want to say one more thing that, the only qualification I had to be hired was I was the only professional that attended the workshop. And the best advice that Chris gave me in starting to see clients, what, because I didn't know the principles, right? And I told her, like, I don't really get everything. And she said, don't worry, don't worry. As long as your clients come out feeling better, you're good.
Oh, I
Glad
don't
you made
remember
it,
any of that,
Sharon.
Sharon. I don't remember any of that. That's a good story. But yeah, so Sharon stayed with us for 20 years, I think. Yeah. Pretty close.
Many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're so grateful for all of the aloha and just the time and energy you put into developing programs. I mean, you were so
It's so
creative.
fun.
So, I mean, we had some of the best day treatment programs in the state. We didn't want to do it anymore because the state then said you have to use evidence-based uh, interventions, and we don't want to do that. So, and they were getting really picky. So anyway, it was a great time though. And she did it. You just did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for all.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now tell us how we got to Sherilyn.
Well,
So Sherilyn, she said she'll stay on talking bubbles.
it, it was it was funny, and but I have to say my story really starts when I went to graduate school, and we would say we knew what we were doing was all wrong. We knew we weren't helping people. We knew we were harming people. That we didn't see anybody get better. And we would joke about it. We would say, oh, maybe when we graduate and we walk across the stage and they give us the diploma, they'll hand us the book that says, this is the real way to do counseling and get people healthy. You know, we, and, but like Sharon said, we did what we did, and what we were taught. That's all we knew. And then working at a job, that's where the company where I met Sharon, and it was, yeah, uh, it was tough. It was even the position I took. They said, "Oh, I'll do." People told me, "Sherilyn, you'll do really well if you stay more than 3 months, because that's the average the counselor at that program stays." And so I was determined. They said several people even stayed only one day and left. So I was determined to break that curse and stay a whole year. But it was something. And then, but
You have
one,
to say where you worked at, what your role was.
oh, I was the in-house counselor at a group home for sexually abused girls. So what I was trying to do is basically I was supposed to counseling, but really all I was trying to do was keep the girls alive because they were always trying to commit suicide. And and so I was going through every single theory that I could find and techniques, and nothing was working. And then meanwhile, Sharon, who was getting very toasty, is a cute way of putting, she was extremely burnt out. She went to these classes and she would tell me, they're not making sense. They say don't talk about the problem. And I was going, how do you help anybody if you don't talk about the problem? And she'd say, oh, yeah, yeah. But, she went to the classes, and then she took a second set of classes and she goes, oh, it's starting to make sense. And I was really scared because it was like, oh, my friend, she's being kidnapped by a cult. And back then it was the Moonies. It was like, it's the Moonies. And I'm so scared trying to help out my friend who's being taken in by the cult. And I kept telling her, no, how can it help people? You never talk about the problem. And meanwhile, there was this girl who nothing was working. And she was so angry that that's really what the issues were. And my supervisor at that time would just say, confront her, confront her, confront her. So I would. She hated coming to see me. I hated seeing her. The staff would actually literally have to physically pull her into my office to see me. That's how bad it was. And I did every single theory for this girl. I was trying to help her. And finally it was like ran out of all the theory. So I thought, what have I got to lose? I'll do what Sharon said, just see something good in her. So I asked her, I said, what's good about you? And she couldn't think of anything. So at that time she liked to play jacks. So we played jacks her entire session. And then the next session she came in and I asked her, what's something good about you? She couldn't think of anything. So we played jacks. The third session, I asked her, she couldn't think of anything. We played jacks. And then at the end of the session, she goes, oh, miss, I know something that's good about me. And I said, oh, what? And she said, I'm getting better at playing jacks, And the next session she came in, she rattled off 3 good things about herself. The 5th session, she rattled off 5 things about herself. The next session she came in, even before we played jacks, she goes, miss, before we play jacks, let me tell you good things about me. And she rattled off 10 things about herself, 10 good things about herself. Now, this is important because it was the entire summer. This is the way the sessions went. Then at the beginning of the school year, Sharon happened to be at the school. By then she was working for Hawaii Counseling and Education Center, and they had a contract to provide mental health services in the school. So Sharon was in the office doing her paperwork, and then she heard her name being called, Miss Sharon, Miss Sharon. And Sharon looked around. She said she didn't see anyone she knew. So she went back to her work, and then she heard her name again. She goes, Miss Sharon, Miss Sharon. Sharon said she only saw the staff and a beautiful young lady. And she said, so she went back to doing her work. And then the girl said, Miss Sharon, it's me, Annie. And it was my client. See, my client was so angry that she was ugly inside and it's shown on the outside. When she naturally felt her health, her beauty showed up. And that's what Sharon saw. Yeah. And that's how strong the 3 principles are, because I didn't know anything. I only knew about a good feeling. And then Sharon invited me to a workshop that was being given. And when Chris was talking, Chris talked about the 3 principles, and it was like the heavens opened up. It was like, oh, that's it. That's the book that they never gave us for counseling. Not just for counseling, for life. There it is, and just so happened the second employee that Christine had was leaving at that moment. And Chris asked, oh, Sharon, do you think your friend would want a job? And I was like, yes. and it was even a part-time job. And I was like, I'd do it even if it was for free, So didn't tell you that, Chris. So thank you for the paycheck.
Lucky you.
Chris offered me a job and loved it. And I just celebrated my 36th anniversary here. And it's amazing. I mean, and did so many things. We did provided mental health services in the schools. I used to be a preschool teacher. We had a prevention contract with the preschool, and anecdotally how it showed how it helped kids. I mean, all I would joke with them was a good mood always comes back with the preschoolers, because really what the bottom line is, it's in the feeling, right? That's the innate health. It's in the feeling. Health is just naturally there. And the kids get it so easily. And anecdotally, the principal said, every little scrape the child gets, every little fight they get in, they have to document it and give a copy to the parents. She said she would have the reports. She would buy it by the case. She noticed when I had the program in the school, she hardly had to use it anymore. In fact, she realized she doesn't have to buy another case of those forms. And that's how naturally this feeling is. So that's been the fun thing for all these years. So yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Susie.
Oh,
Thank you, Joe, for having all of of developing this. And then thank you, Chris, for hiring me and paying me off this
Oh,
year. Sorry, that seems to be the theme, but
thank you, Sherilyn, for all the years of tedious, endless service to HCEC and to the principals and to the people of Hawaii. You've been a tireless, very professional, very excellent therapist for many, many years. A great supervisor and teacher of the new interns as they come in. So thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. We appreciate everything you've done.
thank you very much.
Mhm. Who's next? Who came down next?
Rita.
Rita. Rita Shuford. Dr. Rita.
Been quite the journey, hasn't it?
Yeah.
For all of us. Yeah, it's been so beautiful to listen to everybody's story. I feel so humbled and privileged to be a part of such an amazing journey. Amazing. And to be with so many amazing people in the process, right? And yeah, my story was that I was looking for the missing link, which I won't go into all of that, but I heard sit on a cassette tape in '77, and I thought that's that's what I'm looking for, right? I knew it immediately, never doubted it from that moment on. And but the only person I knew was Roger Mills, who I had worked with in Eugene, and that's who had introduced me and told me about these, you know, principles and this man he was going to go and study with, he hoped at the time. And yeah, I he told me about that tape, and it wasn't until 9 months later, after I had applied to the doctoral program and gotten in, which the thing I was looking for was a missing link. So if I had heard the tape before I got into the doctoral program, I don't know if would have done it. But I was in the doctoral program. I went forward. I got my doctorate with a lot of help from a lot of friends, including the Minnesota Institute of Mental Health, right? Because the basis of my research was looking at groups of depression and anxiety, people who'd come in with those diagnoses, and what happened to them in the treatment that they got at the Institute.
Mm.
And the thing that my professor, who was my guy, my doctoral person, uh, he was so amazed at the results, right? And he said, "This is beyond, 0.0000." I mean, it was just the results with these people who had been diagnosed with depression or anxiety and had all learned about the principles in the treatment at the Institute in Minneapolis, right? And now I knew I couldn't put in. He wanted me to write a theory then. Well, I barely knew what I was talking about. I just knew I had heard the truth. I
Was
knew
that
I
paper,
had.
do you think that paper was the first professional paper done
It
on
was the first doctoral. It was the first
Yeah.
paper on this understanding
Yeah.
that was a doctoral thesis,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, because I finally got it done in, I think it was '86. It took me a while, but so much learning, so much growing. And I worked at the Advanced Human Studies Institute in Florida. I moved from, I was working in Oregon and Eugene, and was then at that point living with Ken Shuford, who became my husband when we got to Florida. Our life journeys here, right? And that's I met Chris. I met you in Coral Gables.
Mm.
first time
Mhm.
because you had come down to the Institute for a training, right?
Mhm.
And I remember being so struck by just how human you were in a good way, in a good way. And I felt this camaraderie and this connection, right? And and it was also in Florida that I met Susie Sickora, right? And
Mhm.
Susie and I had an instant falling in love when we shared the story of how we would go to bed at night and think about how we couldn't wait for our first cup of coffee the next morning. We were immediate buddies, immediate soulmates. But it was, when you underlying it all, it's like these souls. We were just finding each other through this feeling of knowing that we had tapped into or seen or heard something beyond belief, really, beyond belief, given everything that was going on in the field of psychology and still is, unfortunately. Right? But to me, I was more looking at human potential because I always saw the good in people. I just did. I don't know what that was all about, but I did, fortunately. And so I wanted to know, how do why are we beating on pillows? Why are we doing all this stuff? Why are we taking people in the past? It didn't make common sense to me. I had a lot of common sense, right? And so when I heard Sid say the past doesn't exist on that first tape I heard, I thought, oh, yeah, I knew that somehow. I knew that, but I didn't know it in the way I needed to, right? And so, yeah, I had gotten to know Chris and I'd gotten to know Susie, and I started working, at the Advanced Human Studies Institute, and then the Florida Center of Human Development in Tampa. We moved from Miami to Tampa, and um, and then the Florida Center closed down. I got to work with Chip and Elsie, and Sid would come, and I mean, just all this wonderful, wonderful opportunities, right? And um, and when I was I'm trying to think exactly where it was. Like the first major client I had was as when I was in my doctoral program. We had to do you know, I worked in it was at the University of Oregon Counseling Center, right? Because that's where I got it from, University of Oregon. And and it was this client that got passed to me from another therapist who was using uh, cognitive behavioral therapy at the time, right? And and she was suicidal. She was suicidal, and so I had no idea what I'm doing because I wasn't really a therapist. I was more of an educator kind of person, and so I'm meeting with this girl the first time, hearing how she's twice tried to kill herself, right? And I'm just trying to make a connection with her because I know she's got this, I can see she's this beautiful, overweight, but beautiful, you know, uh, girl in college, but feeling so insecure, right? And so I talked to her one time, and then I get a call. We said I was going to talk to her the next week. I get a call that she's tried to kill herself and that she almost did, right? And that she had been taken to, someone found her, taken to the emergency room, and they pumped her stomach and all the things to do and brought her back to her dorm room, right? And I thought, well, I got to go see her. So I did, right? And so I went. I had no idea except to be there and love her, right? And I said, well, what? Talk to me, right? But basically, I said to her, this is your life. It's in your own hands, and you have it in you to be happy and healthy. And I'm here to help you in any way I can, right? Now, that's something to that effect, is what I said. That's all I knew to say, except I just gave her a big hug. I gave her a big hug and kind of reassured her it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And and something happened in her. And this is the magic of this understanding. It's like when someone's ready to wake up and someone's ready to hear, it's a mystery. That young woman totally changed. She became a teacher to the classes that I was doing at the time. Literally. I was teaching some classes at the university, and she would come in and talk about this shift. So that was my introduction to how powerful this understanding is. When I didn't, just like the rest of you are saying, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that what I was hearing to be true and seeing in people was true, that people are innately healthy. So when Chris and Susie called me one day and said, would you like to come to Hawaii to be our clinical director? Well, here's this spiritual timing stuff that goes on, right? Because that was the night before I was going to sign a contract to buy out a practice run by Sandy Crott and Carol Ringgold in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The very night before, the time was set for the next morning at 10 o'clock to sign the contract, right? And Cam was ready. He was just being promoted into a supervisory position where he worked. So we were both just poised to start this whole other aspect of our life, right? Using the principles, right, in our work. And so when you guys called me, I don't know if you remember, I said, I'm going to have to contact Sandy and Carol because I need a moment here. Unfortunately, everybody was so patient. You know, Chris and Susie, you were so patient with me.
Desperate. We
And
were desperate.
you're desperate if you're following me.
The truth comes out. I thought it was
And
wisdom, Prince.
yeah, right. And it was, I mean, sign after sign that this was the same thing to do. And during this process of trying to, what do we do? And we'd say, let's go. And then we'd go, oh, well, yeah, but let's go. Anyway, I talked to Sid at one point, which I wasn't tended to do, to ask him about my personal life, but I did. And the thing he said to me that stayed with me, he said, if you want to grow, go. He wouldn't tell me, go, but that's what he said. And Cam talked to Keith Blevins, actually, who said, Hawaii is a very spiritual place. And that did it for him. That did it for him. And on the phone, we're coming, right? We're coming. And it absolutely no regret whatsoever. It's been my home here. You know, it felt like home. As soon as we got here, it felt like home. And being at HCEC, what a kick. I mean, all the stuff all the workshops and their trainings and watching people come in. That's when the 68 people were there, right? I came in about, I guess, that time. Cam and I came in, right? And just what a ride. I mean, just so beautiful, and so many, watching people come in and go out, you know,
Yeah.
long faces. and lives changing. Yeah. And the ripple effect of it. Yeah.
And thank you, Rita, so much for all that you contributed, all the supervision you did, all the training you did, all the workshops we're still doing. So some things never change.
Yeah. And it's fun to be doing some again,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Great.
Mhm.
Okay. Who's next? Debbie, is that you or is that Crystal and Kiaka?
And Louis.
And Louis.
Louis.
Where'd Louis go?
It's a
There he is.
Yeah, I don't know. Hello there. Uh, I'm kind of lost for words, which is unusual for me. I remember the short story. I was always looking for something and had a chance to do anger management on the Big Island. But the curriculum was being being a sugarcane foreman. I never wanted to intimidate clients to break them and have them admit that they were angry. And then everybody would say everything was fine. So when I moved to Oahu, I got introduced to this curriculum called Ho'omakaho to begin again, to teach Hawaiians the values, the culture, being responsible, living in harmony. So that was like my first introduction to the principles that I didn't know that I was being introduced. And then Karen Miller invited me to go here listen to Sid talk at Castle Hospital in one of the conference rooms. So that was my first meeting, my first introduction to the principles. But I couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about because his accent was so thick. Like, what is this guy talking? And then, but I was curious enough to go back because I wanted to understand, what this guy was talking about. And then maybe about the third or the fourth time, boom, it's like, oh man, there was a mean kick. Amazing. I was like so overwhelmed. Everything that came together, the Hawaiian values and the principles and everything was just so amazing. Man, I cried for days. It was such a big relief. So I wanted to work for Christine. I attended all the conferences, all the workshops. I did even therapy with Christine because, I needed it. Joe Bailey, I cannot thank you enough. Uh, helped me get over a big hurdle. And I just love I do, we call it a violence prevention, anger management, domestic violence. And I just love those guys. I'm like, now at my age, I'm like Uncle Louis. So I really have the connection with them and, and it's just wonderful. Like I just love doing groups with Christine. Thank you so much. Everything is just awesome. I'm grateful. And I'm continuing to get kicked once in a while. So I enjoy being kicked now. It's not easy.
And I think that you then, when you were at the Family Peace Center, then we came and did some trainings there. And
Yeah.
that's where Crystal heard about this, yeah?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, everyone. This is such a treat and such a joy and such a gift to just sit here and be with all of you and reflect this morning. To be brief for time's sake, yes, I was just reflecting. I was getting my MSW at UH Manoa and was introduced to this through, I think, Louis and Family Peace Center training. And so I started coming to these beautiful conferences we'd have at Kaneohe Bay. that were just incredible. And they were just in such stark contrast to what I was learning in my classes, right? And at this point, I had had a number of internships that were all focused on kind of assessing all of the different things that were wrong with my clients or these people, and had been in dozens and dozens in 2.5 years of supervision groups. And so then to hear that everyone had innate mental health, regardless of their circumstances, was really a whole new concept. But it just felt so much better and felt so good. So I loved going to those conferences, and I didn't quite understand, like anybody else, what anybody was talking about, but I just loved the feeling that existed. And so at some point, I got invited on to work, probably through the Felix Consent Decree. And I remember the feeling of our supervisions just being like, I lived for those weekly times to come and sit around everybody and to laugh. And there was like hope. And in my previous jobs and internships and all those agencies, it was like, why are we even working? Why are we doing this? Because it was just problem after problem after problem. And so I was addicted to that feeling. I just loved to be around all of you people because it just felt so good. And so, trying to think of two specific examples to like just share how much the principles work. I remember I had already been working at Hui Ola, which was a transitional group home for our kids coming out of our locked, our incarcerated kiddos that were under 18. And the average number of like runaways that were actually labeled escapes back then was like 3 to 7, right? So it was just like an endless wheel. Like they would let kids out on parole and they would just escape from this group home. And I started doing what I could to just try and like create a positive environment and focus on some of the positives. And we put these little things in place. And by the time I left there, it had been 2.5 years since they called them inmates, which is sad, but a singleton boy had run away from the program. And so they stayed because it felt good. It created a safe place for them. Shortly thereafter, I went to take care of my grandmother and I got a job. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona for a few years, and I was working at a locked psychiatric facility there. Called Park Place. And I remember it was crazy. It was kind of a crazy environment to go in coming from Hawaii. I'm suddenly in a hospital, 7 locked doors. Kids were restrained physically and medically. And I just thought, wow, no teenager should be living in here. And there were 8 halls called wards, and I was in charge of the teenagers who were placed there. And I had my own kind of team of nurses and worked with psychiatrists, and we did not work together. It was really interesting. Everybody had their own ward and you just did your thing. So I got to work, and really, of course, fell in love with these sweet teenagers that were living in a locked psychiatric hospital. And my goal was like, let's get them out. Let's sell them some hope. Let's, teach them the principles, and that just like all of you were saying, they could be okay. They had it in them to be okay. And so it was not very long that I had been there that I got called in by some lady I didn't know to meet with the CEO. And I went to this big, scary meeting on a boardroom with I felt like all these board members. And I was still very young back then. And I thought for sure I was in trouble and being fired for something I was saying, because I knew at this point I was not doing traditional therapy. And so I was certain they were going to say goodbye. And I was totally okay with this. But they said they wanted to know what it was I was doing. And nobody had been interested in it all. Like you just did individual and group. We had group therapy every day, and I had individual therapy every day. And the plan was you were supposed to get them out in 30, 60, or 90 days. But I knew enough to know that the kids that I inherited had been there, some of them 6 and 9 months. And so, of course, I was discharging these kids, and they were doing well. And my kids were not. Like my goal was for them not to need to be physically restrained. And so what had come was what in my little tunnel vision, I didn't know it, but my kids were getting out sooner. They weren't needing to be restrained. It was just like wherever there was an open bed, they plopped a kid in. And so now all of the referral agents only were asking for my ward by hall, and they didn't know what it was I was doing. And so for me, it was just one of hundreds of times that I was reminded of the power and to be how grateful to be given this gift, to be taught this understanding. So thank you to all of you, all of my wise, wonderful mentors and teachers and friends on this call. I'm forever grateful to all of you for HCEC.
Oh, thank you, Crystal, for all you've done. Crystal, when I moved to the Big Island after being gone for 10 years, she was here and got me into Hawaii Prep Academy. So I saw the kids up there, and some of those kids are still, I still talk to them every once in a while. It's amazing. So you were a blessing to us and such a joy to be around. Debbie, I think you had a story about Crystal, yeah?
Uh-oh.
What story do I have about Crystal? I have so many stories about Crystal. One one of the like there's so many stories. I listen to all these things, all these my beautiful friends that I'm so fortunate to have in my life, and the mentors that have taught me things. Chris is just, she's just the best. And she keeps me in line sometimes. But I'm celebrating my 28th year at HCEC this year. I have never had a bad Monday. I have never thought, I have to go back to work. I'm so happy. I work from home, so I can like just walk in here anytime and feel like this is where I work. This is what I get to do with my life. It's the gratitude that I have for what I've learned, the people that I've met is not measurable. And I was telling Chris the other day that like when I first met Crystal, she just had this glow, this draw, this power that I wanted to be around that. I wanted to have that, and I just like I don't know if you remember this, Crystal, but I used to like we would go places like to the beach or something, and then I would like I'll give you a foot massage if you just stay with me a little bit longer. It was weird and freakish, but I just liked that feeling. And it was wonderful. The first person that I met before I came here was Sherilyn, and she just had this one. I thought this must be fake because she's just so lovely all the time. She was always had a wonderful feeling. And then I got a call from Susie who said, come and work for me. And I worked for the state. I had a lazy job where I had nothing whatsoever to do, and I hated it. But state benefits, you gotta like stay there. And I came for an interview with Susie, and she like talked and talked and talked about what a great thing this was and how we teach people all these things and how it's so healthy, and she was just joyful and amazing. And so I thought, oh, this sounds good and it's closer to home, but yeah, the state and the benefits, that's so I talked to a friend at work, and she said, oh, you should go, you're like those people. I said, what does that mean? I'm like those people? And she, oh, go, you should go, you're like them. And I've never looked back. Who cares about state benefits? The benefits I got for having my life be so much more in order, more happy, more joyful. And every day I get to talk to people because I do all the intakes on the phone, and I get to give people a little bit of hope. I'm the warm-up act for the really
Yeah,
Mm.
great therapists that I work with.
yeah. That
But it's
that's one of the great things, Debbie, that you have brought to this is that we saw that early on, that if the person answering the phone had the feeling, that made such a difference. And Debbie does, I mean, the clients will call her up half the time and say, I need help with this. And she goes, well, I'm the therapist. But so now she's the practitioner. She's the three principles practitioner. And we're so grateful for all that you do. You keep the staff in line, and more than they don't call me and ask me for stuff. They'll call Debbie, and Debbie is the person that actually is the nuts and bolts behind everything that we do.
Well, the real fun thing for me is because this is kind of the purpose of things is the clinic is to have all your coworkers doing the same thing that you are. Everybody is talking in our place. So people can come to me if Chris is not available. People can come to Sherilyn. People can, talk to Hannah. They can talk to anybody because we're all in the same place. And having the support of the other people that you work with at all times. I have talked to Sherilyn at midnight numerous times, just for fun and also for like, yeah, what's up with this? Um, so it's just such a piece of gratitude to be here. It was amazing to have met Sid and to hear him speak so clearly and so confidently about what he knew and what none of the rest of us could completely understand, but what he was able to give the feeling that he gave off. You're right. The accent was a little hard, Louis. You're right. Yours is none too easy too sometimes.
Get easy.
True.
Get easy.
True.
And then Sid,
What accent,
Perfect
Louis
PG.
says?
and then other times Sid was such like a normal guy. He was just a man that would be at Christmas time. We'd have a big Christmas party, and I remember one year get grab bag gifts, and he got a sushi roller, and he's like, what is this? What am I going to do with it? And Susie always had a stash of extra presents. So don't worry about that. Here, you've got like an electric razor, whatever it is. I don't know, but it's
That's true.
just the joy of everybody being together, and having that's what a clinic is. That's what, in my mind, I worked in other clinics. I worked in hospitals. Nothing has ever felt like this before. So I live in gratitude forever for all of you, for Christine, for Susie, for Louie, for Sharon, Rita, Crystal, all of you, Kiaka, everybody. Louie, did I say Louie? Louie number one. No.
Louis.
Anyway, thank you so much, all of you.
Oh,
Love
thank
you.
you, Debbie. Thank you for your continued work with us.
Yeah.
Kiaka.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I just want to go off on that Ohana feeling. I mean, so I came to the agency. I needed a job. I was in a doctoral program. My wife was going to have a baby, and I called up a friend, Daryl. Daryl, you get any jobs out there? He said, yeah, come over here. Come talk to me, and I'll introduce you to our director, Christine. And then I had an interview with Christine. And then I walked into the room. And it's Hawaii. Oh, one haole lady. Okay. But then I could feel her spirit. I could feel I could feel it. I was like, wow, this is different. And immediately she offered me a job, and it felt like a ohana, just stepping into the room right there. I mean, that's the issue in Hawaii. I mean, we just kind of get yes, oh no, it's a haole lady gonna tell me what to do. But no, I went in there and I felt this thing in my na'au, my gut telling me this is different. I just got out of 6 years of brainwashing in the academia world. Got my master's. I was in a doctor program. So, they try to teach you that you know everything. But when I got into that moment, I was like, okay, let's do this. I didn't know nothing about the principles. She just hired me on the spot. Then I got the training, and then, I got into the schools. I was on this big grant with the agency, and it was just amazing. Uh, Worked in the schools. First day there, Cam Schufer, Rita's husband, took me to my first school, introduced me how to get things rolling. And then I just kept on learning, getting trained by Christine, Rita, Sharon, Sherilyn. I mean, we were all in these group supervisions. So the agency was like a family, but family getting trained to do the principles. And then off of that, I was starting to go into schools, prisons, working for the probation officers as our clients in the schools. Um, just so many great experiences helping out at the day treatment programs. I mean, we just did an amazing stuff. And I always had the I don't know. Chris always put me into the prison. Like, I don't know. Hey, you're gonna do the HYCF. I said, all right, let's go. So, I went over there, worked with the girls' side, the boys' side. Then those kids are in the part of the court system, so I have to go to court. And then I did counseling. The probation officers couldn't find these kids. They said, all right, let's go. Kyako, you can find them. What? I said, yeah, but they sent me out there. I went to places where the police couldn't go. I went to these compounds out where I can't mention, but it basically went in there, visit my clients. And then I started working with them, sharing with them the principles, and then I remember one time we were sitting in front of the guy's shack, like these like homeless families and stuff. And then it's all the rough guys that live in this area. And I was talking to him, and then one of my cousins came up. Hey, what you doing here? Oh, just cruising, check talking story. And then all right. And then my client says, bro, you know that guy? I said, yeah, it's my cousin. He said, oh wow. Isn't he on the most wanted? I said, yeah, that's just family. And then so it's like it's kind of crazy where these kids get attached to us, and then we get the time to share with them, and we share the principles, and they're like, oh, bro, you're different. You kind of cool. You get this special thing on you. And then I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, I'm just here to help you and learn about these principles that can change your life because it changed my life. And that's the thing I wanted to emphasize is that as we learn these principles to change our lives, we become better therapists, better workers with others because we start living it. And when we like Sid always talk about the formless. Once we start living the formless, oh man, changing lives. We're going crazy. We changing our life and other people's lives. And with Chris them and the agency helping me learn the principles and training me, I got this crazy, I don't know, award that Chris gave me. It was the private provider of the year that was given to providers in the whole area, and I was chosen. And this is a guy that just came out of college, never do nothing, got all these books, but learning the principles and living it and teaching it got me to the place where parents and students nominated me for this and I got it. And I was like, wow, I think I found what I need to do in life. And this is what got me to where I'm at, just working in the schools the last 25 years. After the contract over there, I moved into the DOE. And the thing is, agencies like this help create more systemic change in everywhere we go, and helps me become a better father, a better person in my community. And I say we are all healers, and that's what it is, man. Thank you, Chris. Thank you,
Oh, thank
HCC,
you. Thank
for
you, Kia.
changing my life and all the people around me. You
Oh,
know,
thank
appreciate
you.
it. All you ladies,
Yeah,
sunshine ladies, and all other ladies. Thank you so much. And you too,
thank
Louis.
you.
I can understand you all the time.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
last but not least, we got Hannah. You want to say something quick? We got to end it quickly.
Yeah. The thing that occurred to me was how I feel a little bit lucky and different because I didn't actually come across this understanding as a professional. I was kind of primed into it. So I met I met Christine when I was actually 17 through a very serendipitous family event, and it led to me kind of being introduced to the principles and HCEC in a very natural way. So I got to move to Hawaii. I basically got like in-state tuition after finding out my Hawaiian genealogy through a series of complicated events that are way too long for me to get into the details of right now. And Christine and Uncle Sam were the only people I knew when I moved here. So I was 18 years old on this island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And here were these two people where Christine actually had my dream job. It was so serendipitous. I don't know how it worked out that way, but it did.
Mhm.
And I would go over to Sam and Christine's house and just hang out. Like they had all these dogs that I would get to play with. And I had this sense of family that when you're 18, living alone for the first time, if you're away from family, that's such a blessing, right? And so I come over on the weekends and I'm going through this bachelor's program at UH Hilo. And I come over and I couldn't articulate what felt different about spending time with Chris, but I just kind of knew like she has it figured out. Like, I don't know what I need to learn, but I gotta catch up to speed. I don't know what I'm missing out on. So I'm going through school, and there was an opportunity where Chris was training a couple interns at the time who are now part of our staff. And she said, "Hey, do you want to be our guinea pig? You want to come up for the weekend and they can work with you and, you could be their client for the afternoon?" Said, "Sure, I don't mind." Gets me out of the dorm for a little bit. So Debbie picks me up from the university, drives me up. And at the time, I think I had been in like a really low state of mind for a long time. I was really not feeling great. And Chris caught on to it in the way that she knows, where she didn't have to say anything, but she just observed it in me and saw, oh, okay, yeah, maybe she should be the guinea pig. So I come up, and I think that Chris steps in to kind of guide the interns at that time through, I guess, like listening to what I had to say. And I didn't even know what I wanted to share that time. But I knew as I was talking to Chris, my mind started to slow down. I couldn't articulate that at the time, but I knew that something felt different. And there were a couple other instances where I drop into a conference here and there, or she would kind of share stories about the work that she was doing, but it was in a way that it was kind of sneaky and I wasn't catching on to it. It was more so like, okay, well, I'm learning about all this stuff in my undergrad classes, right? About all these ideas of how psychology works in people, right? And so maybe I can figure this out. I can try to feel less depressed most of the time. And the times when I actually felt better were when I dropped into this feeling at during these moments of visits with Christine. And so I caught on to that ahead of time. Flash forward, I get accepted into a master's program for counseling and psychology. And I call her up as soon as I find out. I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna need some help with this. Like, can you be my mentor? Can I be an intern with you guys?" And she went, "Yeah, of course. We've been waiting for this moment to happen." So I really am grateful because when I was in school learning as an intern, I'd have all my classmates so stressed out and burnt out and afraid of the work that they were doing because we were just interns, right? We were thrown out on the front lines trying to figure out how to help people. And me and a couple of the other practicum students at that time, we would go to our class and we would be reflecting on, the difficulties of what we were talking about in our internships. And I had nothing to say. I was just like, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. And I don't really have any problems I want to share about because I'm enjoying myself. This is really fun. And that was especially true for a population that I was always told was the hardest to work with, which was violent men. And so I got the chance to be the intern that worked with our violent men's program, right? And I remember just watching Louie and Chris and their expertise in working with this difficult population when really what people have shared today is that we're all the same. And we just assign all of these labels of difficulty or challenge or, you know, challenges in life. And we miss out on that connection with people. And I've gotten the privilege to see how that really impacts our community because a lot of the guys, when they would finish the program, they looked different, their energy was different. And I saw that this isn't just helpful for the difficult groups. It's a universal way of approaching life. And for me, as I'm working in the field, working with children and families that receive those labels all the time, I'm really encouraged and hopeful, and I see effortlessly that anyone is capable of coming back to this understanding. So I'm really, really grateful to participate with that and be able to contribute and hear all of these wonderful stories from people that I'd heard stories of, but I've never gotten the opportunity to hear from directly. So thank you for welcoming.
Well, thank you, Hannah. Hannah's going to take her licensing exam in January, and I'm hoping that she's going to be my replacement so I can eventually cut back, not work so much. Not that I'll ever quit, but I could do less. Gosh, wow. There's a lot. I see a lot of other people here. There's that have been part of it. Anybody want to say something, chime in? That were part of our staff. Nina, I see you're here, and Amanda is currently on our staff. She's finishing up her postgraduate hours. Who else is here? Somebody else.
I saw Brittany for a little bit.
Yeah.
Chris, I would like to say something.
Oh, great.
I just want to point out a number of people have spoken about you just hiring them on the spot. And you did that with me. We met at a conference in Minnesota, and you heard I was working with children with autism, and you said, "You want to come work for me in Hawaii?" And I said, I was like, okay, well, let me think about it. And then the next day I was like, yes, I want to come to Hawaii. And I did. And I just want to point out that shows that you see the health in people so easily. And that when you meet with people, you see their potential. And I think that's why HCEC has had so much success over all these years. So much love and appreciation to you. Thank you for the opportunity. And then after I worked in the field for a while and then went on to a totally different career, then working with Chris recently, looking for some purpose in my life, she said, well, why don't you start counseling again? And so I have. And so again, much appreciation for bringing me back into this world and all the amazing feeling that comes with recognizing that health in people.
Yes.
So thank you. Much love and aloha to you. And I love seeing all these faces.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you
Nina.
for joining us. Thanks for all you did for us and for coming back to it. I'm always looking like, let's find some more therapists here. That's the deal. You just get the eyes for that. Like, well, the first time I met Hannah it was at my brother-in-law's place, and I was like, "Oh, you're interested in psychology? Oh, it's like you just kind of know how to follow the feeling with people, and so it's when she finally said, "I think I want to do this," I was like, "Well, it's about time." It's like it took her that long to kind of realize it for herself. So thank you all for joining us. And thank you guys all for coming on and doing this. And I just can't tell you what a ride it's been for me. I still do this every time I fill up with that feeling and it comes out my eyes. So it's like I remember coming back from my first training with Dr. Mills, and I said, look, they found the cure to mental illness. And so to me, how can you stop doing this work? If you know you've got the cure to mental illness and so many people suffer from it, how can you not do that? So I'm in it. So as long as I can remember what I said the minute before, can't always remember. Like you guys are talking about stories. I like, really? I don't remember that at all. It's just such a beautiful gift for me.
What a beautiful bouquet you created here, Christine.
Yeah. And, it's just so great to see everybody and the work that you've done and the way that you've helped people and how it continues. It's like that wave, Joe, that took us in Minnesota. It's just continuing to go. You see how that feeling goes out into the world and touches people and helps people.
Yeah.
And there's, it's
Mhm.
how lucky can I be? How lucky can we all be that we have
Really.
good luck to come upon this and to be
Mhm.
awake enough
Right.
to see it,
Mhm.
like it's just such a beautiful gift, beautiful gift. So thank you all for doing this. I really appreciate it. And thank all of you for coming and listening to us and being a part of this.
Yeah, and just a few
Yes.
announcements before we go. First of all, thank you so much, Chris, and everybody here. I can't even describe the beautiful feeling that I've been in for 2 hours. Um, this free webinar is part of the Three Principles Global Community. We usually do these about twice a month, and the next one coming up, we're really excited about January 14th with our friend Win Morgan, who has been here today. We're really looking forward to that. 2 p.m. Eastern. Also, this is just a small part of what the Third Principles Global Community offers. You can become a member of the Third Principles Global Community. And if you're not already a member, we're offering a free week. And I just put the email that you can contact to get a free week with to have access to all the amazing programs we have. Like, for example, tomorrow we're going to have Aaron Turner does a monthly thing called the Simple Premise. Next week we'll have Kathy Casey and Dickon Bettinger doing a program. So if you're not a member already, feel free to take advantage of that. And then I just like to close with inviting everyone to unmute themselves and say thank you and aloha to all our wonderful guests.
Aloha.
Thank
Aloha.
you.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Amazing.
you,
Thank you.
Joe. Thank you, Louie. Thank you, Kiaka. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Sherilyn, Debbie,
Everybody,
Kristen,
thank you.
Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Love you all so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Love this.
Aloha shaka.
Mhm.
Aloha.